All right, so here I'm going to be talking about auto layouts. So just going to basic introduction to auto layouts, and I'll do other recordings that will um, show auto layouts in use, basically. So when we're talking about auto layout is like a um, behavioral constraint for elements. Generally, let's say it's a frame that tells the elements inside it how they should behave or how they should act. So it's very good for responsive design because then it can make your designs very organized and also adaptable to size and other stuff like that. It's used for some stuff. So I'm just going to talk about the basic workflow of how auto layout works. So let's start by drawing a frame. In Figma, everything is frame dependent. So if there is a frame, then there is going to be behavior. So let me first of all make a simple frame here. Let me just hold down Shift to make it uh, this way. So I'm just drawing out a frame, basic frame, and let me just take a text and write something here. I'll just write one. Okay. I think I'll need to increase that to something higher. Maybe I should reduce my frame. Let me zoom in a little bit. Okay. I think I'll reduce my frame and the text. Let me shift it upwards here. And just make okay, let me do this. Let me make the frame a little bit smaller and shift my text center here. Okay, so I'm just going to make a very large text. Um, and let's make let's see, 96. It's fine. Okay. So frames are just like rectangles, but the difference is frame is like a drawing paper, it's like an artboard. So um, um, Figma recognizes frames. But we can use frames just like we use rectangles. So we give it a fill color, give it a stroke, give it an image, and whatever it is. So right now, this frame, I'm just going to give it a stroke. Let's add a stroke, maybe something bright, something very visible, or let's say something like sharp red. Okay, and then I'll make it a little thick. Okay, just so we see the difference. Okay, and I'll add some roundness. So it basically works like rectangles, right? So, but I just want to use frames. Okay, and now this text is inside this frame. Okay, so I'm going to duplicate this. Let's hold down Alt and drag to make a duplicate of this, holding down the Shift key to maintain distance. Okay, so these two frames right now. Let me change this number to 2. Okay, and yep, just centralize it in this frame. Okay, do the same with this, centralize and balance it up. Yep, all right. So I have frame 1 and frame 2. Let me give frame 2 a different stroke color. Let's try yellow. Oh, yellows. Yeah, maybe yeah, something like that. And I will. Yeah, why not? Why not just make a new one? So all this 1 3. I just did Control D. You'll want to know more about Figma designs. Watch other videos on Figma designs that I have done. I'll be doing it shortly. Okay, so it's 1 2 and 3, right? Okay. So if I select all these frames, all of them, 3 of them, okay, now I can click on auto layout. So basically, let's imagine this was a list of buttons or items and I want to make more of them. I could just be doing alt drag and changing and stuff like that. But let's just make an auto layout. So once I create an auto layout, what it does is it keeps all these frames in a new frame. You can see it's called frame 4. And that frame now has an auto layout, and it has a flow. Here we have different flows here. We have freeform, vertical, horizontal, and grid. For the freeform, it will not be in auto layout. So it's going to remove it from basically any rules. But what auto layout does is it makes the elements behave in a certain way, and that means it gives them some kind of rules to follow. Okay, so um, let's say I want to make a duplicate of this number. Now, maybe of number two. Now, make a duplicate of it. I want to make a different figure. So I could just do Control D, and you notice it shifts this number three to the side. And if I keep doing Control D, just keep shifting them, and on like that. So we're gonna do that, and this is just basically for the fact that the elements are arranged in the frame, in the auto layout frame, horizontally. If I change this to vertically, it's going to arrange them vertically. It's going to arrange all the elements of the contents of the auto layout vertically. And if I do the same thing, select this and Control D, is going to keep adding up, balance, and more. So it's a very good gesture, or it's a very good behavior or procedure if you want to make multiple elements. Maybe it's kind of like a slide or carousel or something. You just want to have a lot of pictures. You can now make multiple of them. Like if you make multiple of this, you can duplicate this, call this number four, and when the frame color here, I could change this out to red, to green. Let's use something quite different. Let's use green. Okay, so this is the green. All right, so we have the red, the yellowish, blue, and green. Okay, so this is the basic function of an layout. So let me explain what we have in the properties panel here. So like I've said, this is the flow, this is vertical, this is a horizontal. It forces elements to behave a certain way. Um, this is the width and the height. That's the width and the height of the rectangle right now as it is. So, and it's basically set to hog. I will talk about this shortly. Then we have the gap. The gap is the spacing between the elements here. So I could come to the middle here and increase the spacing, the gap spacing. Here I can even make them overlap each other. Okay, or I could do it here, come here, scrub, and do the same thing. Okay, so the gap is basically the spacing between the elements in the frame, right? And then we have what we call the padding. The padding is basically the element to the edge of the frame. Okay, so as you can see right now, padding is zero. There's no distance between the elements and the lines. But if I increase, let's say, the vertical padding, you can see it's now creating a padding here between the top and the bottom. If I increase this one, I'm going to be increasing the left and the right. Okay, so depending on what you want to do. And now, because frames are like, let me give them at 40, 40. Frames are like rectangles, like I said, just like we did this with colors. So I could actually give this frame a color. So let me just give it a feel. Let's say, let's want something very different from what we already have. So it's easy to spot. Okay, all right. Okay, so we have this frame. Okay, so this is one basic stuff about the auto layouts. Okay, it can help us rearrange and stuff. And now look at this. If I want to flip maybe number three here to number one and number two, if I drag this and you can see it's shifting the elements by themselves. It's not allowing. I can't drag this and put it here. You know, the auto layout forces the elements to behave in a certain way, to align in a certain way. So I can't put this down here, I can't put it right here. If I shift it here, it moves the other one back because it must maintain that gap spacing, okay? So another cool thing is if I want to move it, if I don't want to use my mouse, I can use my left and right arrows on the keyboard and move it. Once the element is selected, I can move it left and right. Same thing with if it was a vertical flow, that's if I go to my frame and I change this to vertical flow and I set maybe choose the frame two, I could always move up and down and stuff like that. So it's a very nice way of working. Auto layout is just cool like that. Okay. All right. So that's a basic one for the auto layout. Uh, then we have this point here called talking about alignment. Right now, you may not see much of it because, yeah, even if I change anything here, you may not see anything happening, and that's because for the alignments to be seen, the frame has to be larger than the element. So right now, we have a padding, and the padding is kind of hugged, or let's say fitted to the element. And you can see all of the elements are on hug that is fixed to the where padding, so no padding has. So let me just increase the size of the frame, right? So now, by default, you can, it's most times the auto layout when you do it for the first time, maybe in the top left here. So it just keeps the elements in the top left. Let me make this one longer so you can see that difference here. So we have the top left, we have top center, we have top right, we have middle, right, middle left, and stuff like that. So you can arrange your elements within the frame in any of the alignment features you have. So just the point to note is that the frame has to be larger than the elements inside for you to be able to use the alignment, or for you to see the effects of the alignment properties. I hope that's understandable. Okay. All right. So that's generally the first thing to note about auto layouts. Now, auto layouts are super dynamic and they adapt to they make the elements adapt in size, or they adapt to the size of the elements. Like let's say you create a button and you want to put in some text, and the text starts maybe start adding some more text into the button, and you want the button to increase with the size of the text. So auto layouts work fine. So usually people we use buttons for rectangles to create buttons, but I can also use a frame since it works just like an auto layout. So I could just create, let's say, a frame like this. All right. Okay, I can take my text and large text. Let me just write something like this. Okay, so let's say button. Okay, so button. So I'm just going to break some rules just to make this a bit larger. Definitely, I want to use this size of text for my buttons. Don't judge me. So I could do this. Alternatively, I could just write the text first and then convert text to add a frame. So I could do that, or I could just let me delete the frame. I could write the text first of all. Let me make okay. Let me make the text as white, right? And let me change it to light. This is the button. Okay, so now I have a text, right? So I can actually convert my text to become to go into a frame, and that's by right clicking on this, or Control Alt G, or I right click and I see frame selection, Control Alt G. So same thing. So just click on that, and then it turns that to a frame. Let's see, it's called frame 5. Now we collapse this. So now this is an empty frame, as you can see, and I could add a color or a fill to the frame just so I see the difference. Let me add a fill frame something a little bit. I think this is a button, right? So let's make it bluish, kind of. All right. And now, right now the frame is just hugging the text. There's no uh, not very nice. Okay, so um, right now I want to have a situation where I can write on the button on it. Like right now, I click on the button here and elongate it. You see the button is just going by itself. The text is just writing, and the button, the color, nothing is changing. The text frame is increasing, but the frame itself is not increasing with it. So we want to make that change. So we now convert the frame, now put it and auto layout. Okay, so now we now turn it on to 8. I can see it's hogging, hog. So it's 125 by 48 hog. That is like fixed width, fixed height. So what I can do here is I could increase the padding for the button. So let's say 20 on the side here, and let's just say 20 up here. Just something like this, okay? And we'll round it up to just like we did, or that's like how a normal button would look like, okay? I think I should make this one a little bit higher. Let's do 30. Okay, so let's just say something like this now. So we have the pattern and stuff. So this is why I'm talking about it being super dynamic. So if I double click on this and type something like elongated, you see the button is increasing as I'm typing, as my text is going, as I delete it, it goes. So I didn't add any extra features, it just adapts, does that way. So auto layout is very good for those kinds of behavior. All right. So that's another cool one. So another option we could have is in a scenario where we have, well, let's say a large frame like this, then I could have multiple frames. Let's make this red frame. Okay, I'll just make multiple. Let me like um, 4 of them. So this one will be green. This one will be blue, and this one will be pink. No. All right. So now I have all this. Guys. So we could actually tell the frame to behave in a certain way. All right. So I could say now, let's say I had text, okay, maybe some kind of text inside this guy. So let me just write something here. Let me just write text. It's quite large though, but and I would use the size 2. Let's say this is 24, okay, and let me fit the text into the frame. Okay, so I just do that and copy it into the next frame. I'll do the same thing, copy into the next frame, like that. So I have all my texts are inside frames. All right, so there's frames. All right, now for behavioral patterns, is way you want to make the master frame behave when it's increasing or when it's resizing, and you want the text to behave in a certain way. All right, so now for this one, I could say let it be hog fitted. Let it just be where it is, just the way it is. So basically, it's just going to be using the left, right constraints and stuff like that. So I'm going to auto layout this. The shortcut for auto layout is Shift A. I'm going to auto layout this guy, auto layout this guy, auto layout this guy, auto layout this guy. All right. So where we have the width and the height, okay, we have something we call fixed width, hog contents, and stuff like that. Each are the same way that we have here. So for this guy, I'm just going to make this particular frame, just going to make him not layout. So let's see, let me just make him a not layout. So he's not layout now. All right. So for the auto layout, let me put it in the top this way. Okay. Okay, so these guys now, if I come over here where we have the width and height, we have fixed width, hog content, field container. Now, this field container was not accessible when the main frame didn't have an auto layout. So that's if I come to the main frame now and turn off the auto layout and get back in here and I click on this, you won't see that option. Okay, that option only occurs when it's frame working with another frame that is an auto layout. Okay, all right, so I'll turn it back here. So the first option here is fixed width, which is the same thing as hog. So it means the text, no matter how the frame is adjusted, it will always remain the way it is. not going to change in size. Okay, right. So we're gonna leave that. That's the first one. The second one I would like to show for the width section. We want to go to the next option, which is the fill container. So this is fill container by width now, not by height. So if I go fill container now, watch what happens. It kind of pushes this ones a little bit, but not too much because you can see that there was some spacing left. So let me show you what is actually happening. Let me reduce this padding. If I reduce this padding, you can see what's happening here, right? Okay. So right now, if I increase this page, you notice that that green box is moving and it's adapting, it's getting it's squeezing or squishing up, right? So that's that's what the feel is. Now the reason why it didn't feel to the end is because we have other things here. If there was nothing here, it would have filled up. So basically, like if I had made a new duplicate, you know, uh, so basically, if I had made a duplicate, I mean, I forgot that this was a different flow. So let me just ignore that. I will show you shortly. Okay, so that's what the width does. Fill width, it fills up the width of the length of that frame. So in this auto layout, if I have to come in here and reduce the gap size so that we could have better feel on that. So that's the fixed width, okay? Or fill width, or fill container width. Right. So for this one, I'm going to do the fill container, but right now we'll do it under the height. So fill container height. And what happens is it's going to fill the container by height. So right now my frame has a um, very massive padding. So I'm just going to remove the padding so you see that. So let's see. There's no padding here, 0. And I drag this down so you can see that it's filling the height. Okay, so however the frame is adjusted vertically, it's just going to keep stretching it. For the green one, however the frame is adjusted horizontally, it's going to keep stretching. So that's the fill height, and that is fill container height, fill container width. And for this one, I could do both of them. I could do fill container width, and also you see what it is. It kind of squished this one because it's the rule in the auto layout is it must always maintain spacing, right? So if there was some spacing that needed to be adjusted, then this one now had to push off the other one so that this guy's going to remember this one is fixed. Excuse me, this one is fixed, so it's not going to get smaller, it's not going to get bigger, it's just going to be the same way. This is the only ones that are going to move, but for this one to come in now, it had to adjust it. So if I then if I removed it, okay, from fill and left it back on fixed width and adjusted, let's say I'm just going to do that. So you can see how this was this long, right? Let's say 222. That's the width, a bit of fill. So, but when I turn this one to fill from 75, it becomes 148. And this one has now reduced to 148 because it now calculated or distributed evenly the size, the width of this green to get to the pink one. So they are now both the same size because they're trying to fill up as much space as possible. Okay, so when you drag both of them, drag along. Now we can also add the fill with a height to it. So let's go fill container height, and then it attaches to the top as well. So that when the frame is being reduced, it's also reduced as well and stuff. So fill container very good for um, filling up spaces either vertically or horizontally. So maybe you have a hero page and you want it to be compressible with your design. Maybe you have um, a page, like let's say for instance this is your desktop. You go to desktop, take a desktop page. Um, you take let's say, okay, let's say this will be your, let's say that is your let's say that's your nav bar. Okay, and then you have another one down here, and this is like the hero. Okay, and maybe this has an image, some write-up and stuff. So we'll call this guy your hero page. Okay, so I'll just make it very large text. See how heroic it could be. All right, so there's a hero page, and this is like nav bar stuff. So you want to make maybe this desktop now. So this guys, you turn this one to an auto layout so that it behaves a certain way. And let's say for my hero page, gonna be behind it now probably different color. So let me even delete the now. Let's just leave the hero there. So let's say for this desktop now, I could turn this to an auto layout, all right? And then this frame, also make it an auto layout. So for the auto layout now, we have the setup for this guys, which is in here. And then I can make this guy fill width, fill container, okay? So that as the page increases or reduces, it behaves the same way, all right? The same thing, even if in my frame, this frame, I didn't use a color. Probably I used an image. So probably I went in here and picked one of my images here. So we have that complexion there. And then, okay, so as that image is there. So if I'm now adjusting this, so the image is also adjusting along. You can see that very good for responsive design, right? So other layouts, very useful. All right. Okay, so that's good. So remember, the important thing is for this thing to work, the frames must be in an auto layout frame. As they have to be an auto layout frame, and the frames themselves have to be auto layouts as well. Okay, so that's basically what is happening. Okay, and okay, so they have to be framed, and the frames have to be auto layout as well. So what this text being white is quite crazy on a white background. So let me just make the text something else. This is still weird, kind of weird. And okay, because I always had an effect. Well, anyway, this is not just you understand what I mean. Okay. All right, so that's important. So auto layouts work better with other auto layouts as they interact easier or better with themselves. All right. So what there's sometimes, yeah, they keep their rules. Yes, they tell you, oh yeah, you're gonna behave in certain ways, but at times you can break those rules. All right, and there's nothing wrong with breaking rules if it's for a good reason. Yeah, sometimes there's everything wrong breaking rules, but if it's for a good reason, yeah, break some rules. So let's say, for instance, now let's say like, okay, let's just go back to this frames. This ones that have 1, 2, 3, 4, and let's say within this frame, or not let's say outside of the frame. Let's say I want to add this circle. Okay, just add a circle. Like I'm just making like a golden color kind of stuff. Right. All right. So I want to add the circle here. Okay. Now once I bring it in here, it's flips it into the other layer. Right. That's not what I want to do at all. Okay. So let's say I try to do something like put it within this. It's really not behaving the way I want. Okay, I just wanted to hang somewhere. It's, it's quite weird. Okay, And that's because this auto layout has a rule and everything has to be orderly, and stuff. So I want to break that rule. I just want to put this guy somewhere hanging out here. Okay. So, let me change it to something more orangey, so it looks more like or green. Let me make it very green. So it looks something like someone's online and stuff. Okay. So I want to do that and put it on this number one here. And if you come to your where now properties where we have a position, you just have to be in the auto layout first of all. So here, this option here that allows you to ignore auto layout. That's what it says. That's ignore the rules of the auto layout. So I can click that, and once I do that, every other thing comes back to play, and this guy is just hovering inside the line like, hey, it can be anywhere. Okay, so I just want to put it somewhere. Uh, let's just ignore this layout again. I'll put it like here, like if to show that this guy is online. Okay, I can make another copy of it. So bring it out the other layout. Um, yeah, ignore this. Okay, and put this one. So maybe this one will be offline, or let's say it's not available at the moment. Maybe that's something like that. Okay, so that's how we could break the rules just by clicking on that. So it ignores the auto layout rules and behaves that applying in your um, properties on your layers panel. You can see it has that icon, and you want to make it obey the rules again. Well, you have to go ahead and click on this button again, and then it will obey the rules again. All right. Okay, so the last thing I want to talk about layout for this video is the behavior, what happens when you shrink the auto layout or the main auto layout. So right now, if I shrink this, nothing really happens, kind of just cuts everything off. That's like if I click content, that's kind of cutting everything off. And that's not, maybe that's not what you want to do. So why is it behaving that way? And that's because in the auto layouts on the main frame here, yes, it is flowing horizontally, but if you want it to wrap, then you have to click on this button here. And once you click on that, once the spacing between these elements gets smaller than wherever it is now, right now this is 40. Once it gets smaller than 40, it wraps the 4 and drops it down, and on like that. Okay, so that's what wrap helps. So immediately whenever you are trying to adapt to that, there will be a kind of red indicator. Like see where my arrow is a red, showing like a red line there, telling me that I've reached the boundary. Once I cross it, gone beyond that. Okay, and once I get there and stuff like that. Okay, so what if I wanted all of them? Let me delete this circles. I wanted all of them that um, yes, I want them to fall because right now as they're falling, there's nothing wrong with them falling, right? But this spacing here, it doesn't make any sense. Okay. Yes, it's a lot of spacing. Even though Figma knows that this spacing is too small to adapt or to collect these guys, but it's just too much spacing. So I wanted to make it a little bit more fluid. I don't want it to be so naughty, so haughty in that form. All right. So what I can do is something incredible here. So um, I'm going to add a minimum width to this element so that once the element gets to a particular size, they drop. But once they are not that size, they can fill up the spacing. I don't know if that makes sense. Okay, let me just show you. Right now, for each element, you can see it has a width of 154 and height of 154 is a perfect square. So I want that if it gets less than 154, that is when it should drop. But anything above 154, it should fill up the space. So I'm going to do the same thing that we did here with the green box, that is fill container for all of them. Okay, and then I'm going to add a new one. So I'll select all those frames, all the shape frames here, all of them, just like all of them. And I'm going to, where we have the width, I'm going to click on the arrow here. So we have add minimum width. Here we also have it for the height, add minimum height and maximum height. But I want to work with the minimum for now, add minimum width. Okay, so the minimum width, I want to make it exactly the same width with the original. So that's going to be 154. All right. And I'm also going to tell the elements to fill the container so that whenever there's spacing, there's somewhere to be filled up, just fill it up. Okay, so that's the idea there. So since I have a quick tweet, I can now do fill container for all of them. Okay, so now this is what I'm trying to achieve. When I get lower than 154, you see what happens? The four dropped, but the others try to fill up the container to make sure that there is still a spacing of 40 between all of them, okay? And once I get smaller, it drops again, and you can see it adapts. So everything adapts and becomes that way. So there is, it's like saying, hey, no gaps allowed. 40 is 40. So everywhere we're going, we gotta be 40, you know? So that's very good for responsive design. So like we're trying to make something for mobile design. I want to see how it will look like on the mobile feet. Let's say this is the size of your desktop. This is how it will look like, and this is the size of your iPad. This is how it will look like, and this is the size of your mobile phone. This is how it will look like. So the elements just fall into place. Okay. So that's a very quick run through on what to lay out there. Some other users we can make auto layouts. I will do on a video where we'll do some practical stuff. So, but for now, I'll stop here so don't make this video very long. Hope you enjoyed it. Subscribe for more.